Don't get discouraged. So, I've been talking about the 8 key business skills, and as people work on these skills, sometimes it gets very discouraging. There is so much to learn, it takes so much time. Surely there are some shortcuts. But when they try those shortcuts, they oftentimes find out that there are no shortcuts. Those are just traps in disguise. I'll be talking more about those traps in other videos, but today is focused on why not to get discouraged, on the importance of learning these new skills and investing to earn these new skills. In a business, we only have so much time, energy, and resources to deploy, and so it's very important everything we do has a return on investment. If it's not giving us something back, we should just be not doing it at all and saving those resources. So the return on investment on skills can get very complicated. Sometimes it's very clear. I worked on becoming a better manager, I have better retention, my employees are happier, the business runs smoother. I worked hard on sales and marketing, I've doubled my revenue, things are looking really good. But sometimes you're doing the work and you're not seeing the results right away. You can feel the growth, but it's not showing up on your profit and loss statement or on your blood pressure measurements on how you're feeling about life. And that's when this can get discouraging because you can see how vast the need for growth is, and you can start to get discouraged in taking that path going forward, that the investment might not give you the return you're hoping for. So I wanted to give a few examples of ways that you're going to get a return that might not be the return that you expected. So again, if the return is very linear, you did the work on sales and your sales are better, that's rewarding. It's easy to stay motivated. But as you work across these 8 skills, I guarantee there will be some where you're not feeling that return right away, and getting discouraged is very, very easy. So a few stories and examples of case studies I have seen in the past. I had one client in the past who had a number of businesses, none of which were massively successful. And this particular person oftentimes would struggle in some of the sales and marketing side of each business. But each iteration of a different business, they got better and better at it. At the very beginning, they almost avoided having a sales conversation whatsoever. Later on, they had some and they had some success. Later on, they even helped run a little bit of a sales team and pushed even harder to have more and more success in sales. But ultimately, they decided that they were maybe not in the mood to have a business anymore, which is totally a fine choice, and they shuttered that business. I recently talked to this client, and what might seem like a failure in acquiring business skills actually is an impressively important tool right now. So this person is looking to move overseas currently into another country. And this other country has a very low cost of living and a very easy entry point for American citizens. The only real requirement is that they have their own business and that can be set up overseas there, and it brings in a certain fairly low amount of dollars per month in income. So this person can now take all of the business skills that they had acquired and relaunch a business overseas that will basically use those skills to allow them to live their dream life in this new country. And their bar for success has massively changed. So, where they decided maybe not in the US as far as the business goes, overseas was a great fit. And if they hadn't put in that work on that sales and marketing, this wouldn't even have been a choice, and they might have gotten eliminated from the possibility of even getting to start a business overseas and live that dream life. For myself, I decided to leave a corporate job years ago. In that job, I had a lot of sales experience. And I thought, well, I'm no longer doing that job. I no longer need that experience. But actually, it's transitioned very nicely into helping me teach others more about sales and learning them myself. So, what I thought was a wasted skill actually has come in useful in a more roundabout way. I've had other people that have worked with me that ended up deciding being a business owner wasn't for them, but in doing so, they actually have grown those skills to where they're a much better employee and become a manager, a much higher level salaried person than they ever could have before. So even if the direct path isn't obvious, there are other surprising benefits down the road. So I wanted to remind you of that before you get too discouraged, that the return might not be direct, but it will be indirect. And that's the biggest benefit about working on skills, is they're always in your back pocket, they're always in your toolbox. Once you have them, no one can take them away from you. They exist, and you can actually combine them in new and really powerful ways. So that's on the return side to not get discouraged. So what about the investment side? We're looking at a return on investment. Most people think investment, they think right away, money. I have to pay a lot of money for these skills. But in actuality, that's not the case. When I think about learning business skills, there's actually an order I think of. It's an openness to input is the number one piece to learn business skills. If you're closed minded and not willing to learn new information or see other viewpoints and just assume you have it all figured out, it'll be hard to pick up a new skill. If you have that, openness to input, and if you have focus and do some critical thinking and spend the time and energy and a little bit of money sometimes, you can acquire these skills. So that's the input that's required. I find that the focusing on a thing that we're not good at can be very discouraging, especially whenever there's other things we can focus on. That can be a derailing point, and the critical thinking is one of the biggest derailing points I've seen. We want it all to be easy and come to us right away, but these skills, there's a deep level of knowledge that's required. If we go slow, build a strong foundation, we can go much, much faster later. The faster we try to go early on, the more likely we are to get tripped up. So being patient and not getting discouraged as we put in this time early on, think critically through the components of the skill. That's what allows it to have that return later in whatever form it may come. So for many, learning is fun on its own. I really encourage you learning and building these skills. But if you're starting to feel discouraged, like maybe it's not totally paying off, maybe it's time to shift your focus to another skill for a while and come back to the one that you're on. Or maybe it's time to remind yourself that the benefits of this skill might come in a roundabout way. So keep it up. It's very important to learn new skills. Have a great rest of your day.